Today we're going to talk about 5 copywriting principles to improve your email performances and make sure they generate more revenue. Before we get into it, I'm going to tell you, a lot of e-commerce brand owners, they look at tools like AdSpy, the Facebook ads library to spy on their competitors and make sure their ads keep performing better and better, but they want to do the same with emails but don't replicate that same process. So what I do is, and my recommendation for you, is create a fresh Gmail account. So we call this a swipe file, and you subscribe to basically, let's say 20 competitors of yours that you are sure that are crushing. You need to make sure they have good emails, so make sure they're 8-figure brand or that you know they have good emails from the founders himself. Subscribe to them, check that inbox weekly, and make sure you analyze what they're writing, why they're writing it, the psychology behind it, so you can replicate it for yourself. Don't copy their word one-to-one. Don't copy and paste their words inside of your email. Analyze the script, psychology behind it, and make sure you understand the framework so you can replicate the principle and not the tactic. Okay, so let's get started with the first tip. Number 1 is the rule of 1. I didn't invent it. It comes from Michael Masterson. So he's a writer of great leads, and he has made over $1 billion in revenue through the use of copywriting. Great source to have, and I highly recommend you read that book. But what is the rule of 1 basically? It states that you should never write about 2 different things at once. So always focus on one main idea, one target audience, one compelling offer, and one desired action. Never talk about different things. And how you can apply it within your emails is basically, if you want to pitch product A1 and product A2, never do it inside of one email. Just write 2 separate emails, one about product A1, another one about product A2, and send both of them to your list over the span of a couple of days. Or what you can do if you don't want to do that is just create one email about the category A, and not basically each product at once, but about the category as a whole. And again, this doesn't only apply to products. So for example, if you're talking about wrist pains and how your product helps solve that, don't turn your back later down in the email and talk about knee pain. You made sure the email is relatable to people who have wrist pain. Don't switch and just go deep on the problem and talk about your product as a solution. Sell that and don't talk about anything else. Basically, most of the principle focus on basically making sure people understand your problem, that you do not confuse them or anything. Really, this is the main talking point of this video. Then moving on to the second tip is basically going to be clarity and how key that is. So for example, you have to make sure your scripts are easy to understand. Don't use big words, just make it as simple as possible. Don't use complicated sentence structure, and don't confuse anybody. So this is a great example with the brand AdGen, and the way they use that is not only they use simple words, but they also use white space. So they make it easy for people to read the email. Basically, you can see that they skip lines, they don't write huge blocks of text, even though their product is hard to understand. They could be using a lot of scientific jargon, but they're not using that. And they're even making sure the design helps you read through the copy and understand things clearer. Another point I want to add is you want to make sure your design does not distract the reader from the copy. You want to make sure it highlights it. So you want to flip it, even for a brand in the same space, in the same industry. So for example, apparel brand, they're going to use 2 completely different type of copy. So for example, if you're an apparel brand, it doesn't mean that you're going to use the same copy as another apparel brand. It depends on your audience. So for example, apparel brand, if you're Nike, you're not going to use the same copy as Gucci. 2 complete different archetype. Okay, so now tip number 4 is focus on your first scroll. So basically, the first thing that people see when they open your email, that first portion that they see when they open, especially on mobile, focus on that, because this is responsible for 80% of your email success. So I found a great example in my inbox. As you can see right here, this is a strong first scroll for a sell email. So you have everything. The offer is here. Again, another reminder above, but yeah, you have the offer, you have the discount, and you have the shop now button. So if you open that, you can basically click on the email straight away, understand everything, and shop. This is absolutely fantastic. Then point number 5 is focus on the benefit and not the features. So this is a quick example right here, but if you're selling a TV, for example, you focus on the benefits and what the TV brings to people instead of what the TV objectively has as features. So for example, if you have a 65-inch 4K Ultra HD display, this is jargon. Most people say this is super technical. The average person that's buying a a TV wouldn't necessarily know what all of these terms mean, like especially like 4K, Ultra HD. Like, you know, it's high quality, but you don't know exactly what this means. You would rather, to get the conversion, focusing on stuff like this would just bring you way more sales. Now, obviously, you need to mention that on your product page, and you can just mention the technobabble later in the email, but the first scroll should be focused on the benefits and not the feature. People who are looking for the feature scroll down the email, so just make sure you include that somewhere. Just, it should not be the forefront of your marketing. So yeah, this was the 5 copywriting tips you should know to increase your email revenue and to make sure your campaigns and email flows are converting way better. This is super important. You should focus on them, and especially the first thing I told you in this video is to implement a swipe file. You should 100% have one with all of your competitors and even some other extra brands that are doing emails right, just because it's going to give you one inspiration, but also it's going to make sure that you can understand what's working right now for like other industry, yours, and it's going to give you ideas on how you can implement that for your brand. So yeah, all of the tips I mentioned to you in this video, you should 100% implement them if you want to generate more revenue for your e-commerce business. And this is something I routinely do for my e-commerce client. If you don't want to do it yourself, you can become one of my clients using the first link in the description. Go to the description, click on the first link, and you'll have an option to book a call directly with me. We'll find out if we're a good fit, and we'll get started working together if we are. So we guarantee we add a minimum of $30,000 to your monthly revenue. You only pay us after this happens, after this works, and we take care of everything. So writing, designing, and distributing the email. If this sounds interesting, again, go to the first link in the description, book a call with me, and I'll talk to you then. See you.